All right, so strap yourselves in, folks, because today we're diving into some seriously dark territory.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
Oh, it gets pretty twisted. We're exploring this short story. It's called Psychography of Fear, and you can actually find it on Readsy.
Okay, I've heard of that. It's like a platform for authors and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this story, let me tell you, it just gets right under your skin. It's like, imagine getting this letter, right? A desperate message in a bottle.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And the guy who wrote it, his name is Henry Wickens, and he's writing to this police lieutenant, basically pleading for help.
Oh, wow, like a cry for help.
Totally. He's basically saying, my wife's trying to kill me. But here's the thing. It's not your run-of-the-mill domestic drama. It's way more sinister than that.
Okay, now you've got me hooked.
So we've got Henry. He's trapped in this deadly game, and it's all orchestrated by his wife, Clarissa. And to make things even creepier, Henry's dealing with this horrible bone disease.
Oh, man, that's rough.
Yeah, the author describes him as having this chalk-like necromantic disposition.
Whoa, okay. That's a pretty vivid image. Definitely sets the tone, you know.
Right, and it just gets weirder from there. So Clarissa, the wife, she's obsessed with this idea that fear is the key to, like, unlocking some higher level of consciousness.
That's interesting. I mean, we've all heard about those adrenaline junkies who chase thrills, but this sounds like she's taking it to a whole other level.
Exactly. It's like she's looking for some kind of spiritual enlightenment through terror.
You know, it kind of reminds me of some of those transhumanist philosophies, you know, the ones that talk about pushing the boundaries of human experience.
Yeah, there's definitely a connection there. But Claire's methods, they're not exactly ethical, let's say. I mean, her idea of an experiment is things like driving recklessly, pushing the limits of speed and danger, or even holding her breath underwater until she's on the verge of passing out.
Okay, that's starting to sound a little unhinged.
And it gets worse. It's like each experience leaves her wanting more. Like she's chasing a high, but the drug is fear.
It's like a spiral, right? Each dose has to be stronger than the last.
And eventually, it leads her to this really creepy place. The Bartholomew family mausoleum.
A mausoleum. Oh man, talk about a setting that just screams bad vibes.
I know, right? A place literally filled with death and decay. And this is where Clarissa's obsession takes a truly dark turn.
Okay, so we've got a desperate husband, a thrill-seeking wife, and a spooky mausoleum. What happens next?
But to get inside Clarissa's head, the author gives us these snippets from her diary. And in one entry, she writes this line that really stuck with me. I am not hurting another soul.
Wow. It's like she's trying to convince herself, you know, justify her actions, even though they're putting her husband in danger.
It's almost like she's created this moral code in her mind where as long as she's not directly causing harm, anything goes.
That's a pretty slippery slope.
And the way she describes her experience inside the mausoleum, it's so vivid. The darkness, the cold, the smell of stale air and decay. It's like you're right there with her, feeling that sense of claustrophobia and dread.
The author definitely has a way with words, that's for sure.
So we've got Clarissa seeking out this ultimate fear experience in a mausoleum. And that's where the story takes a truly twisted turn. She has this plan to observe Henry's terror while he's trapped inside a crypt.
Okay, hold on. Observe his terror. Like, how is she planning to do that?
There's this crypt with a clear quartz lid. And she wants to watch him from above as he lies on her dead parents' corpses.
Oh my God, that's messed up on so many levels.
Henry seems to find a strange kind of intimacy in this whole ordeal.
Whoa. Okay, now that's just disturbing.
It's like he's drawn to the intensity of it all, even though it terrifies him. And it makes you question, is he just a victim here? Or is there something more to his involvement?
That's a good question. I mean, is he, like, manipulated by Clarissa, or is he in some way complicit in this whole twisted game?
It's a complex relationship, that's for sure. And it makes you wonder about the nature of fear and desire, and how those things can become intertwined in really unhealthy ways.
It definitely makes you think, that's for sure. I'm eager to hear more, to see where the author takes us next.
Well, buckle up, because it's about to get even darker and more twisted. We'll delve deeper into Henry and Clarissa's relationship, and we'll uncover the chilling final entry in Clarissa's diary.
Can't wait. This is definitely one of those stories that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Oh, absolutely. It gets into your skin, makes you question everything you thought you knew about fear, and the lengths people will go to escape their own reality.
I'm ready for the next layer of this twisted tale.
Okay, so Remember that creepy mausoleum, right? Well, it's not just a setting, it's almost like a character in itself.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. The way the author describes it, it's like this oppressive force, like it's closing in on them.
Exactly. It represents this feeling of being trapped, both physically and mentally. And it's not just Clarissa who's a prisoner of her own desires. Henry's trapped too.
Right. Trapped by his illness, by his circumstances, and maybe even by his own twisted connection with Clarissa.
You hit the nail on the head. There's this moment where the author uses this phrase, the architecture of their confinement. And it just perfectly captures how both of them are imprisoned in this situation.
It's like the mausoleum itself is a reflection of their inner turmoil, you know? The decay, the darkness, it's all symbolic of what's going on inside them.
And it's not just the setting that's messed up. The whole story is full of these disturbing images, these reflections of physical and psychological deformity.
Like Henry's bone disease, for instance. It's not just a physical ailment. It's like it's eating away at his soul, too.
There's this one line that really stood out to me. His bones turned to chalk, mirroring the chalk outline of a victim. It's like the author is drawing a parallel between his physical decay and the violence that's unfolding around him.
It's so subtle, but it's so effective. It makes you think about how our bodies can become reflections of our mental and emotional states.
And it's not just Henry. Clarissa, even though she's physically healthy, she's twisted too, but in a different way. Her obsession with fear has warped her perception of reality.
Yeah, it's like she's become this grotesque caricature of her own desires. And the way she talks about Henry's deformities, it's almost like she's attracted to them, like she sees them as a reflection of her own inner darkness.
It's a truly unsettling dynamic. It makes you question what draws them to each other, what keeps them locked in this cycle of fear and obsession.
It's a twisted kind of love story, right? But it's more about control and manipulation than about genuine affection.
So we've got this creepy setting, these deeply flawed characters, and this sense of impending doom hanging over everything. And then the author throws in this bombshell, the final diary entry from Clarissa.
Oh man, I remember that part. It's chilling.
She reveals her plan to let Henry die in the crypt so she can fully experience his terror.
Wow. It's like her obsession has completely consumed her. She's willing to sacrifice everything, even Henry's life, to achieve this twisted form of enlightenment.
And the way she writes it, it's so cold and calculating. It's like she's describing a scientific experiment rather than the death of her husband.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create in our own minds.
And so we're left with this haunting question. Did Clarissa actually go through with her plan? Is Henry still alive? The author doesn't give us any easy answers.
It's a cliffhanger ending that leaves you feeling deeply unsettled. And it makes you think, what would you do if you were in Henry's shoes? Could you escape this nightmare? Or would you be consumed by it?
And that's what makes Psychography of Fear so effective. It's not just a horror story. It's a psychological thriller that forces you to confront the darkest parts of yourself, the fears and desires that we all try to keep hidden.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it, and it makes you wonder, what secrets lurk in the shadows of our own minds? It's like she thinks she's found some secret path, you know? Like she's on this spiritual quest and fear is her guide or something.
Yeah, but a pretty messed up guide if you ask me.
No kidding. It's like she's completely lost touch with reality, with any sense of right and wrong. It's all about her own experience, her own enlightenment, whatever that means to her.
And speaking of reality, you know what gets me? The way the author keeps dropping these little hints, these details about Henry's condition.
Oh, yeah. Like, we know it's bad, but we don't get the full picture. It's kind of left to our imagination, you know?
Exactly. And that makes it even creepier, right? Like, how bad is it really? What's it doing to him mentally? We're left wondering.
Right. It makes you question everything. Is he really just a victim here, or is there something more going on?
And don't even get me started on that mausoleum. The descriptions are so vivid, I swear I could smell the decay, feel the cold stone.
Ugh, yeah. It's like you're right there with them, trapped in that darkness. It's more than just a place, you know? It's this whole atmosphere of dread and suffocation.
Totally. And it's like that atmosphere is feeding into their messed up dynamic, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's like the mausoleum itself is like a reflection of what's going on inside them. All that decay, all that darkness, it mirrors their own inner turmoil.
You know, there are even parts where the author actually uses the word deformity to describe not just Henry's physical condition, but also what's happening psychologically with both of them.
Whoa, that's interesting. So like his physical pain is a metaphor for the twisted things going on in their minds.
Exactly. And it's not just Henry. Clarissa, even though she's physically healthy, she's deformed too, but in a different way, you know?
Right, right. Like her obsession has warped her, twisted her perception of everything.
There's this one part where she's talking about Henry's, his twisted limbs, and she says something like, I am drawn to them. It's like she sees his deformities as, I don't know, as something beautiful or even desirable.
That's messed up. Really messed up. It shows how distorted her thinking has become, you know?
Totally. And then, bam! The author hits us with that cliffhanger ending. We're left wondering if Henry is even alive, or if Clarissa actually went through with her plan.
Oh man, that ending, it just leaves you hanging, doesn't it? You're left with all these questions, all these unsettling possibilities.
Did she kill him?
Yeah.
Did he escape? We don't know. And that's what makes this story so effective. It doesn't give you any easy answers. It just leaves you with this feeling of unease, of dread.
It really makes you think, you know, about the nature of obsession, about how far someone might go to achieve their desires, even if it means hurting someone else.
And it makes you wonder, what would you do if you were in that situation? Could you break free? Or would you be consumed by it?
You know that letter, the one he sends to the police every day? It's almost like a ritual, right?
Yeah, like a lifeline.
Like he's clinging to this this tiny bit of hope that someone's going to notice, someone's going to come and save him.
But then why keep going back to the mausoleum with her?
Right. That's the thing, isn't it? Is he really hoping for rescue? Or is it, like, something else? Is he drawn to the danger, maybe?
Or maybe he's just resigned to his fate.
Yeah, like he's accepted that this is it. This is his life now. Trapped in this this twisted game with Clarissa.
It's tragic, really, both of them trapped in their own ways.
Yeah. And in the end, they're both complicit, aren't they? He goes along with it, and she's just lost in her own world.
So after all this, what's the takeaway? What do you think the author is trying to tell us?
I think it's a warning, you know, about how our desires, even the ones that seem harmless, can become dangerous if we let them control us.
And how the lines between love and obsession, between pleasure and pain, can get so blurry.
Yeah, and that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones hiding in the dark. They're the ones we create ourselves.
So for everyone listening, what are your thoughts? What really struck you about Psychography of Fear?
Yeah, what stayed with you? Is Clarissa a monster? Could Henry have saved himself?
This story definitely gives you a lot to think about, that's for sure. It makes you question your own desires, your own fears.
And it reminds us that the human mind, well, it's a pretty dark and mysterious place.
Well, folks, that's it for our deep dive into Psychography of Fear. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and maybe, just maybe, keep a light on tonight.